Are you midway through writing your memoir or your life story or your family history, but struggling to finish it? Maybe you're struggling to find the time. I know that this is a challenge for some people because recently I sent out a survey via my weekly memoir encouragement email list and said, what's the hardest thing you're facing about writing your memoir? And this was the top thing. It's just creating the space and the time to actually put the work in and write that story. So I'm Charlotte Squire, I live in New Zealand, and I teach people to write their memoirs. My team and I have produced dozens of books, and I've taught hundreds of people how to write their memoir. So these are 3 habits that I've personally had to adopt myself over the years in order for me to finish memoirs and life stories and family histories for private clients. Okay, so number 1, it's to commit to taking small, consistent steps most days. So you are actually going to need to lock this in if you're serious about finishing your memoir. That's why I jokingly refer to this as your new part-time job. So for me personally, I don't like working on the computer all day, even though I am a writer, that's what I do for a job. So I like to do maybe 2 or 3 hours a day on a book. And within those 2 or 3 hours, I like to do maybe a 30-minute chunk of writing and concentration, and then I need to get up and move my body because I don't think that my body was really designed to sit really still on a computer for too long. So I need to move, get the blood moving, so to speak. I prefer to write first thing in the morning after I've done a bit of exercise as well. And I've always got a book on the go, so then I like to just get that 2 to 3 hours of work done on that book that day, that morning, and then it's done, and then I can move on and do other things, and I don't even have to think about it. But because it's my priority to progress the book and I want to finish it, I'm gonna have to take those small consistent steps every single day or every single working day, and make it a priority. Just recently I actually wrote a blog about how even 30 minutes a day can add up. So the average person can write around 400 words, depending on the size of your font, in 30 minutes. So that's around a page. So if you wrote for just 30 minutes for 3 days, that equates to around 12,000 words in 30 days. That equates to around 40 pages of your future book. And that's progress. And if you did that for 6 months, that's a 240-page book. Not bad. All you would need to do is commit to writing for half an hour 3 days a week at whatever time of the day works best for you. And no, it wouldn't be perfect. And yes, you'd probably miss some days. You know, we're all human. I know I do. But that's progress. And, you know, progress over perfection is still progress. By the way, I'll put the link to that blog about what you can achieve by writing 30 minutes per day in 3 days down below. So the second point I want to make is you need to find your why. You need to be clear about why you are writing this memoir and maybe make it visible to yourself every day, which reminds me, I've actually, as a result of preparing for this video, created a free downloadable PDF. It's a 1-page document called Your Memoir Plan. You can download it and you can write your why into that document, and you can also write maybe the future title of your memoir, and you can write what your goals are for your memoir, and you can also write on that your routine, roughly when you'd like to schedule in to work on this book, and there's also space for notes. So you can download that via the link below. Let's get back to your why. Why do you want to write this? So I must admit that when I was at high school, or college we call it in New Zealand, I was a slacker when it came to getting assignments in. Every now and then I do okay with them, but most of the time I was a really last-minute-y person. It wasn't until I started writing professionally for editors and I had a deadline to meet for them that I started to get my act together and not leave it to the last minute. Although I must admit, thinking back to when I was writing for our little community newspaper here in Golden Bay, I definitely did a lot of night before rush jobs for them. But over the years, I got more and more used to deadlines. My why was not letting the editors down and not wanting to get into a stressful situation with them. And then that's evolved over the years for me. And my why has become wanting to do a really good quality job for clients when I write books for them, because it's going to be my name on that book for future generations to read and my reputation on the line. So maybe you could look at it as pride. It's my need to do a really good quality job on each book I write for people, so they'll be happy, so that they feel like they really got their money's worth and great value, so that anyone I've written about is happy, and so that communities and families and future generations can access a really well-written book in the future. So that's my why. So what's your why for writing your memoir? It's really cool if you can write that down somewhere so you can refer back to it when things get hard, and it will. Writing a book, writing a memoir, your life story is inevitably going to be hard at times. It's not always going to be an easy process, but maybe your why will help you through. And the third thing I want to say is set SMART goals. I'm sure you've heard of SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. And there are variations on that. So I learned about this a couple of decades ago, and since then I have found it quite useful. So I work with students in my course, Write Your Memoir, and we meet once a month and check out about their goals and how their routine's going and whether it's realistic, whether it's working, just any challenges. And we share half pages of their memoirs as well, and we give feedback. But within that session, we look at their goals and their routines, and we look at whether they're still realistic. Perhaps they're actually achieving more than they thought they would, perhaps they're achieving less, and we can tweak those goals. But just having the goal, like for example, we've set goals of what we want to achieve by the end of the year. So, you know, some of them want to write the first draft of their book by the end of the year. Some of them, they don't think they'll get there. Some of them just want to have their notes prepared to start writing for next year. Writing a memoir takes time. You know, it's maybe, I'd allow, if you're really focused, you could do it in a year, but I'd not be surprised if you did it in 2 years. You could write the first draft of your story in 1 year. So how are you going to get there when you break that down into chunks? When are you going to write it in your week? And that is going to come down to you and how seriously you take this goal. Once again, the new exciting, I'm very excited about it, memoir wall planner can be something you can print out. It's just a page. You can put it near you, and you can keep looking at your North Star, your why. You can keep reminding yourself of your routine. And, you know, there's coming back to the SMART goal thing, you can make sure that you set yourself up to be successful because you know realistically it is going to work for you. You know the times of the day that you'd be happiest writing. It might not be mornings for you. I have one person on my course who's writing a book, and he is writing from maybe 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock in the morning quite passionately, and he was never a writer before. His name is Mike, and he has discovered that he loves to write. But yeah, nighttime is his time that he writes. So you find the time of the day that works best for you, and you don't need to write for 3 hours. As I said, you can write for 30 minutes. I find sometimes the hardest thing is just getting started, and then you might say you're going to write for 30 minutes, but then you write for an hour. I hope that was helpful. So just to go back over that, we've talked about 3 habits that I personally use to actually finish my books. So I've spoken about taking small, consistent steps. I've talked about establishing why you're doing it, finding your why, aka your North Star, that is going to get you through those harder times when you don't feel like finishing it, when you doubt this. That why is going to keep you going. And we've talked about setting specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-bound goals that are going to get you to the completion of that first draft, and then they're going to get you through the completion of all those edits you're probably going to have to do to polish your story up, and they're going to get you through designing your book. If you are wanting to actually turn it into a book, you might not want to print it as an actual physical book. Personally, I work with people mostly who do, and it is a very satisfying thing to actually hold that book in your hand. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe to this channel, and remember to download that new free printable memoir planner guide that I've created for you, which I'm really, really excited about, because I think that it's going to remind you daily of what you're doing, why you're doing, and how you're going to get there. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Charlotte Squire, and keep writing.